You know, trauma can feel like carrying a backpack filled with rocks. Each rock represents a painful memory or experience, and the heavier the load, the harder it is to walk. But here's the thing, no one has to carry their backpack alone. Imagine a group of friends sitting in a circle. Each person takes out their backpack and shares what's inside. Some share rocks that are sharp and jagged, while others have stones that are smooth but still heavy. As they share, something magical happens. The weight seems lighter and laughter fills the air. It's like the rocks lose their power when you talk about them, like deflating a balloon. In these moments, hope begins to peek through the cracks of sadness. It's a tiny light, reminding us that even though the road is tough, there's still a way forward. You see, resilience is like a muscle. The more we flex it, the stronger it becomes. Just like how those friends are helping each other lift their loads, we can help ourselves grow stronger through our tough times. Sometimes we may feel lost or confused. That's perfectly okay. Think of it as a puzzle where a few pieces are missing. We might not see the full picture right now, but that doesn't mean it won't come together eventually. As we collect pieces of our stories, we begin to find bits of wisdom in unexpected places. A kind word from a stranger, a favorite song that stirs our heart, or even a smile from someone who understands can give us the pieces we need. As days go by, we learn little tricks to lighten our load. Maybe we find a quiet place to think or create art or even write our thoughts down. Each moment spent finding joy, no matter how small, adds a sprinkle of magic to the heavy days. It's like adding feathers to our backpacks. The more we fill it with lightness, the easier it is to walk. So, as we take steps forward, let's promise to be kind to ourselves. Healing takes time, just like a flower growing in spring. With patience and support, we can nurture those little buds of resilience until they bloom into something beautiful. And when they do, we'll look back at our backpacks with gratitude, not just for the weight we've carried, but for the strength we've found together along the way. The sun was just starting to peek through the gray clouds, casting a gentle light on the friends as they sat together in the park. They had spent time sharing their feelings, and now it felt like their backpacks, though still heavy, were a little lighter. It was clear that together they could shine a bit brighter. Lillian, always the dreamer of the group, suggested they play a game. What if we find little things that make us happy? Each one is like a tiny spark, pushing away some of the dark. The others nodded, eager to join in. It was a fun idea, lifting their spirits while paying attention to the world around them. They began by walking along a winding path, sharing small things that delighted them. AJ pointed to a group of children flying kites. "Look at those kites. They're so free, dancing with the wind. Just like us, we can let go of our worries sometimes." His eyes lit up, and the others smiled, picturing their own worries soaring away like those kites. Next, Mia noticed a ladybird crawling on a leaf. "Isn't it funny how something so tiny can be so bright and cheerful?" she said, watching it make its way up the leaf. "It reminds me that even small joys can bring a bit of light when things seem dark." They all cheered for the ladybird, feeling a connection to that little creature, which seemed to say, "You can keep going." As they continued, Sean, who often felt quiet and shy, suddenly exclaimed, "Look at that flower." He pointed at a yellow daisy growing by a tree, standing tall amidst a sea of green grass. "It's so different from everything else. It's like it's saying, 'Here I am.'" Everyone paused, admiring the flower that dared to shine, just like each one of them was trying to do. With hearts a little lighter, they gathered on a bench to rest. Lillian pulled out her sketchbook, and everyone asked to see what she had been drawing. Pages filled with whimsical characters and bright colors danced before their eyes. "This is my happy place," she said, giggling. "Whenever I need hope, I come here to draw." The friends took turns flipping through the pages, each one showcasing a bit of her heart. They laughed at a goofy monster and marveled at a rainbow that seemed to leap off the page. That art brought out a sense of joy, reminding them that they too could create their own joy. "I think we can all find ways to hope," Mia said, a light in her eyes. "It doesn't have to be big. It can be small, like a flower or a drawing or even a shared laugh." They all nodded, agreeing that even when the dark times felt heavy, there would always be momentary glimmers. As they walked back, talking and laughing, the group realized they were helping each other to heal. It was like tossing old rocks aside and making room for new ones that spark joy instead of sadness. They were learning the art of resilience, not just by sharing their pain, but by celebrating the small moments of brightness together. Suddenly, Sean spoke up again. "Hey, next time let's bring some snacks and a blanket for a picnic. We can fill our backpacks with yummy things instead of rocks." They all burst out laughing, the idea lighting up their hearts. As they made their way to their favorite spot under the big oak tree, they knew they would face struggles again. But for now, they had found their bright sparks. With new hope and wisdom in their hearts, they stepped forward, ready to fill their backpacks with the warmth of friendship and the joy of laughter. The sun peeked through the trees in the park, casting dappled shadows on the ground where Lillian, AJ, Mia, and Sean sat together. Their scavenger hunt had been such a success, each little find acting like a tiny bandage on the big wounds they carried. Now, it felt like the air was lighter, and their laughter floated up like a balloon, ready to soar into the sky. "Okay, I bet we can find even more things to cheer us up," Mia suggested, a spark of mischief in her eyes. She waved her arms like the conductor of an orchestra, ready to lead the next tune of joy. The others exchanged curious glances, the promise of new discoveries dancing in the air. "I wonder if we can find something that reminds us how tough we really are," Sean chimed in, scratching his head. "Like a rock or something. We can get creative," Lillian replied, her enthusiasm infectious. "How about finding something that represents a time we bounced back after a tough day, something that tells our story of resilience?" The group nodded, inspired by the idea. They could think of it as a treasure hunt of hope, where each find would symbolize the strength they were building every day. "Look, a twig shaped like a broken heart," AJ exclaimed, holding it up proudly. They all giggled at how something so sad could turn into a symbol of repair. "It's like us. We were broken, but here we are, piecing our hearts back together." Mia found a little feather that drifted down like a soft whisper. "This feather is light and free, just how we want to feel. It represents hope." They took turns gathering small treasures around them. A smooth, round stone, a butterfly with vibrant colors, and a tiny daisy that looked like it could dance in the wind. As they collected these little symbols, they also shared stories of their struggles. Each word was like a warm hug, wrapping around the group and making them feel connected. With every story, they learned more about each other, finding wisdom in their words. Lillian shared, "Remember that time I felt lost after moving here? I thought I would never fit in." She paused, a smile creeping across her face. "But it turned out to be a journey. I learned that everyone here was just waiting to share their story too." Sean nodded, his eyes bright. "Yeah, and how we found each other in that big crowd. It's like we were all alone but together at the same time. Strength in numbers, right?" "Exactly," Mia exclaimed. "That's resilience. No matter how hard the day is, we can lean on each other. Like the kites we found, even when the wind tries to ground us, we can still fly if we stick together." With their scavenger hunt complete, they gathered in the soft grass, holding their treasures closely. It was more than just a collection of items. It was a heartfelt reminder of who they were and who they could become. "In tough times, let's not forget this day," AJ said, his voice sincere. "We will remember that we have each other, and with hope we can pull through anything." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. The four friends felt a newfound sense of strength. They knew the journey wasn't over, and tomorrow might bring its own challenges, but they held tightly to the thought that laughter and friendship could light their way. And so, with hearts a little warmer and spirits a little brighter, they packed their small treasures and made their way home, ready to face whatever life would toss their way, knowing that as long as they had each other, they would always rise as the sun began to set. Casting golden rays over the park, the four friends settled onto a bright green blanket, their arms filled with the little treasures they had just gathered. There was a smooth stone that Lillian picked up because it reminded her that even when you feel broken, you can still be strong. AJ had found a tiny feather, light and soft, just like hope. Mia held onto a heart-shaped leaf, its vibrant color symbolizing love and friendship. And Sean, with a grin, clutched a small acorn, representing the big dreams that can come from small beginnings. They nestled in closer, their spirits high and laughter bubbling through the air. "I never thought a scavenger hunt could feel so powerful," AJ said, tossing the feather into the air, watching it twirl. "It's like we uncovered not just things, but parts of ourselves we didn't even know were hiding." "Right. It's amazing how pain can teach us," Mia chimed in, her voice softening. "I mean, look at each of these symbols. We've all been through rough patches, but here we are stronger and closer than ever." Sean nodded, his eyes serious. "You know, sometimes it feels like the world is a heavy blanket pushing down on you. But today, the sun felt warm, like a reminder that even in the darkness, there's light waiting to shine." Lillian smiled, brushing her palm over the stone in her pocket. "It's funny how the things we go through can either drag us down or teach us something. I thought I would never get over losing my job last year, but now I see it as a push, a chance to find something better." "A chance to grow," Mia added, her fingers tracing the leaf. "It's like this leaf, it didn't just fall from a tree to die, it gives life to the ground around it. It teaches you that sometimes loss can be a way to create space for new beginnings." "Well put, Mia," AJ exclaimed, feeling inspired. "Wisdom doesn't come from the easy times. It comes from facing what hurts and still choosing to smile. Like when we were in high school and we all felt lonely and lost. But look, we made it through together. We're reminders that even broken pieces can fit together beautifully." The laughter returned, lightening the mood as they shared more memories of their teenage struggles, old crushes, and dreams that seemed far away. Through it all, they leaned on each other, finding strength in vulnerability. It felt good to share not only the hard parts but also the hopeful ones. As the sky turned a soft shade of pink, Lillian looked around, her heart full. "You guys are my treasures, our stories stacked together like these symbols. Each one shows the beauty in our pain and how it can lead to something greater." AJ raised the feather. "To resilience. To hope," Mia added, holding her leaf high. "To friendship," Sean shouted, grinning. With cheers, they clasped hands, feeling a united force against anything that might come their way. Finding wisdom in pain wasn't just a lesson from the past, it was a promise for the future. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that even the toughest times could bloom into something bright. The hunt was more than just an afternoon in the park. It was a celebration of who they were and who they could become as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Lillian held up her token, a fragile glass heart. "This reminds me of how we've all been through tough times, but look at us now, shining together," she said with a soft smile. The shimmering light from the heart echoed the hope that filled the air around them. AJ nodded, rubbing his hands together as if to gather warmth. "You know, my token is this worn-out guitar pick. It used to belong to my dad. He always said, even the roughest strings can create the sweetest music. I never understood what he meant until I lost my job and felt like I had lost my song. But now, I'm finding new melodies in life. Mia chimed in, twirling a small feather in her fingers. This feather reminds me of letting go. After my breakup, I felt heavy with sadness. But then I realized, just like a bird flies free, I could rise above the pain. Each lost love teaches us something, no matter how hard it feels. Sean, who had been quiet, finally spoke. He unveiled a tiny compass. This little thing shows me that even when we're lost, we can find our way. My loneliness was like a fog, making everything unclear. But with you guys, I learned that there's always a direction to head towards together. Together, they nodded, understanding how their stories intertwined like branches of a tree. Each struggle was like a storm, fierce but temporary, shaping them into who they were now. It's like we're all artists, Lillian said, her eyes sparkling. We're taking our pain and painting a canvas filled with colors of hope and resilience. Mia laughed softly, more like abstract art. Sometimes it's messy and confusing, but it's still ours. AJ added, and every brushstroke tells a story. It shows how we've learned, grown, and healed from our past. Even the darkest colors can create depth, you know. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, soaking in the peaceful sounds of the park, the rustling leaves, chirping crickets, and the gentle breeze that seemed to whisper encouragement. Lillian took a deep breath, feeling a shift within her. What if we start a new tradition? Each month we can share something beautiful we've created from our struggles, a poem, a song, a painting, anything. Sean's eyes lit up. I love that. It's like we're sharing pieces of ourselves. We're not just surviving our experiences, we're transforming them into something meaningful. Mia raised the feather as if to toast. To turning pain into beauty, to hope and friendship. AJ added, lifting his guitar pick. With laughter and cheers, they made a pact. It was a promise to support each other in creativity, to remind one another that they were capable of more than just healing. They could create magic from their wounds. As the sun finally disappeared, leaving twilight in its embrace, they felt a warmth growing within. It was the kind of warmth that comes from shared memories, laughter, and a future filled with endless possibilities. They were ready to face the nights ahead, knowing that together, they could transform their stories into a beautiful tapestry of resilience and hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over their gathering, Lillian, AJ, Mia, and Sean settled onto the soft grass beneath the old oak tree. They had just shared their tokens, little pieces of themselves that carried so much weight. Now the air was filled with a sense of anticipation. What came next wasn't just another chat, it was about taking small steps toward healing. Mia took a deep breath and smiled warmly at her friends. You know, I think we often see healing as this big mountain to climb. But what if we think of it like stepping stones in a gentle stream? It's not always a race. It's more like hopping from one rock to the next. Lillian nodded, playing with the edges of her glass heart. Yeah, each little step can bring us closer to where we want to be. What if we made a list of these small things we could do? I mean, things that bring us hope and help us cope with our trauma, little actions that lead to big changes. AJ picked up his guitar pick, tossing it lightly between his fingers. I guess it could be anything. For me, just strumming my guitar can lighten my mood. Even the sound of it feels like a hug. Sean leaned back, the compass resting in his hand. I like that. Maybe I can plan a walk in the park. It helps me clear my mind and, find that direction I sometimes struggle with. The group sat in thoughtful silence for a moment, imagining what these small actions might look like. Mia suggested, how about we each choose one simple thing we can promise to do this month? Just one, something we can share next time we meet. Lillian smiled brightly. I love that. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's like growing a little seed. As long as we give it water and sunlight, it can bloom. Aj's eyes sparkled as he thought aloud. Maybe I could invite you all for a jam session. Music connects us, and maybe we could write a little song about our journeys. It could be fun. Mia grinned, her feather swaying gently in her fingers. And I'll try to write down my feelings in a journal. It could help me let go, just like the feather. Sean, feeling inspired, added, I'll focus on asking for help when I need it. I usually try to do everything alone, but it feels good to remember I have you guys. Each friend spoke their truth, like giving pieces of their hearts to each other. With every small step they shared, hope grew brighter among them. They felt a warmth, as though they were not just four friends dealing with trauma, but a small tribe, lifting each other with love and laughter. As dusk settled in, the stars began to twinkle in the sky, each one mirroring their promise to each other. They had found wisdom in simplicity, how small actions like a walk, a song, or a journal could build the path toward healing. They clinked their imaginary glasses, celebrating the hope that their new tradition would bring. From the fragile glass heart to the compass that had once felt lost, they understood that while trauma was a part of their story, small steps could lead to big changes, creating a narrative filled with resilience and friendship. That night, the glow of their friendship lit up the darkness, making every little step seem like a leap of hope as the sun dipped below the horizon. Painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Lillian picked up a small, worn-out journal from the grassy ground. This journal has seen a lot of my tears and secrets, she said, her voice gentle yet filled with strength. Every word inside is a piece of my journey. Writing helped me find hope when everything felt dark. AJ leaned in closer, intrigued. I can totally relate. Sometimes when I write, it feels like I'm talking to a friend, even if it's just the paper, he said with a smile, glancing at the clouds slowly drifting away. I thought sharing my thoughts was scary at first, but it turns out those words can be powerful. Mia, bouncing her leg nervously, added, You know, it's not just about writing. I love music, and after a tough day, I just put my headphones on and let those songs carry me. It's like a hug from the universe, reminding me I'm not alone. She strummed an imaginary guitar, her fingers dancing in the air, and they all chuckled. Sean nodded, scratching his head. I get the power of sharing our stories. It's like holding hands in the dark, he mused. When we talk about our experiences, we shine a little light for each other. It makes the shadows feel less scary. Exactly, Lillian exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. And when we share our struggles, we gather wisdom from one another. It's like we're weaving a blanket of support to wrap ourselves in. A team of resilience. AJ added, It's almost like transforming our fears into seeds of strength. Every little story we share can grow into a tree of hope, and that tree can shade others who are fighting similar battles. Mia nodded vigorously. And think about it. Every time we tell our stories, we're not just helping ourselves, we're giving courage to someone else who might be going through something tough. It's this beautiful cycle of hope. Sean raised an eyebrow playfully. So, should we form a sharing club or something? We could call it the Hopeful Storytellers. He mimicked holding a microphone, and they all burst into laughter. As the giggles faded, Lillian looked around at her friends, the warmth of friendship wrapping around them. You know, I think it's even more than just talking, it's about listening too. When we listen, we show we care. And caring makes the world feel a little brighter. AJ took a deep breath, glancing skyward at the first stars appearing. You're right. Sometimes all someone needs is a kind ear, someone to say, I see you and I'm here. That's how we build each other up. Mia chimed in, What if we set a date, just us four? We can share one story each time. No pressure, just support. That's a great idea, Sean responded, a grin spreading across his face. like a mini storytelling festival. As they sat beneath that old oak tree, the air filled with the scent of fresh grass and the soft rustle of leaves, Lillian felt a spark of something special. Tonight, we started talking about our experiences, but we're also making a promise to each other to keep sharing, to listen, and to remind ourselves that we're not alone in this. Together, we can turn our struggles into stories of strength. And under the twilight sky, they clasped hands, each feeling a little lighter than before, ready to take their next steps forward together, one story at a time. As the fire crackled softly in the background, the group sat in a cozy circle, surrounded by the warm glow of lanterns that danced with shadows. The night air felt crisp, full of hope and possibility. Lillian smiled, her heart full of gratitude for her friends. "You know, it's so amazing that we're all here together," she said, looking each of them in the eye. "It feels like we're not alone anymore." AJ nodded, his enthusiasm bubbling over like a fizzy drink. "Right, it's like we've created our own little safe space. When I shared my story, I didn't just feel lighter, I felt stronger." Mia chimed in, her voice wrapped in warmth. "Exactly, talking about our worries and fears, it's like peeling away the layers. I didn't think I could ever feel this kind of relief." She paused, a thoughtful look on her face. "It's like we're creating a patchwork quilt of support." Sean, always the wizened thinker of the group, added his wisdom. "That's a great way to put it, Mia. Each story adds a square to our quilt. We're not just sharing our burdens, we're also sharing our strengths." Lillian's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Let's make it a tradition. Each time we meet, we can share a story. It doesn't have to be about trauma all the time. Let's include moments of joy, hope, and resilience, too." AJ grinned, the idea brightening his face. "Totally, it could be fun to mix in some laughter. Maybe even theme nights. How about funny fails? Those are always good for a laugh. Or Wisdom Wednesdays." Mia suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. "We can share lessons we've learned, ways we've found to cope. It could inspire us." Sean looked thoughtful again. "If we're sharing our stories, we should also hear from others outside our group. We could invite more friends next time. Imagine how many different experiences we could learn from." Lillian loved that idea. "Yes, let's open the circle wider. The more stories, the stronger our quilt will get." As they shared more ideas, the air filled with laughter and chatter. It was like the world was becoming a little brighter, a little more hopeful. Each friend felt like they were adding their colors to the quilt, stitching together their experiences with threads of understanding and compassion. They all knew the road to healing was not easy, but with laughter, stories, and each other's support, they would face it together. In that moment, each of them understood that trauma might shape them, but it would never define them. As the stars twinkled above, they felt their bond grow deeper, more like family than friends. They made a promise to lift each other up, to hold tightly to the hope they found in every shared word. The healing journey was easier together, and together, they knew they could weather any storm. As the soft flames danced in the fireplace, casting flickering shadows on the walls, Lillian leaned closer to her friends, a spark of inspiration lighting her eyes. "You know, art has a way of spilling our feelings out like a bucket tipped over. It can help us see what's inside without having to say it directly." Mia nodded, her dark curls bouncing with enthusiasm. "I love that idea. We could try painting or drawing. When I paint, it feels like I'm telling my story in colors, not words. It's like a secret language just for me." AJ, always the joker, pretended to hold a paintbrush like a microphone. "And I can start a rock band called the Feel Good Foursome. Okay, maybe we'll just stick to painting and writing for now," he chuckled. But his eyes sparkled with the idea. "Music could also be an amazing way to share. We could write songs about hope and resilience." Sean, who had been quiet, finally chimed in. What if we each wrote down a memory that still feels heavy? Then we could turn those memories into something lighter, like poems or stories. We can even add a twist of humor to it. A quiet moment followed, and Lillian felt the warmth of understanding in the room. That's powerful, Sean. Taking something heavy and turning it into art not only makes it lighter, but it also helps us see it in a new light. Plus, sharing these creations could inspire others to find their own voices. Mia leaned back, her mind playing with the idea. So, we're like a group of adventurers. We can explore the wild world of our feelings, chasing after hope, using creativity as our map. We'll call it the Creative Quest. AJ exclaimed dramatically, waving his arms as if he were a captain of a ship. And we can invite others to join us on this wild ride. The more the merrier, right? We can all learn from each other's experiences. Lillian grinned. Exactly. We can make a space where everyone feels safe to express themselves. A place where we understand that while trauma might show up as storms in our lives, we can also create rainbows from those storms. Sean's face brightened at the thought, and like a patchwork quilt, we can combine our stories, each adding a square of our own experiences and feelings. Together, they create something beautiful and strong. Nodding in agreement, Mia stood up, excitement spilling from her. Let's start today. How about everyone takes a piece of paper and draws or writes something? No judgments, just freedom to express ourselves. With that simple call to action, the friends gathered their art supplies, a stack of old papers, a few worn-out crayons, and some markers that needed shaking. They giggled and shared stories while their hands got messy with colors. Laughter filled the room as they painted away, transforming their emotions into art. Lillian's heart swelled with gratitude as she looked at her friends, their faces smudged with paint yet shining with joy. Each stroke on the paper was a step towards healing, a reminder that they were crafting their journeys together. In that cozy gathering, surrounded by the comfort of friendship and the freedom of creativity, they discovered that while trauma shaped their story, their resilience and hope would be the threads that held their patchwork quilt together. And together, they would continue to explore new creative paths, letting their expressions guide them toward brighter days. In the warmth of the small art studio, the smell of paint and the sound of laughter filled the air. Lillian sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by her friends. They were all dressed in paint-smeared clothes, a sign of their creative adventure. The sunlight streamed through the big window, lighting up their canvases, each one telling its own story of heartache and hope. Mia, with her brush in hand, looked at the scene before her. "You know," she said, "it's like we're all building a bridge with our art. We're using the broken pieces of our past to create something new and strong." She dipped her brush into vibrant blue paint, making waves that danced across her canvas. AJ, with a mischievous grin, added, "Yeah, and the best part is, we each get to add our colors. It's like mixing our sadness with joy and making a beautiful rainbow." He splashed yellow and orange paints onto his canvas, creating a sun that seemed to smile. Sean nodded enthusiastically. "It's true. What once felt so heavy now feels lighter. I didn't think sharing our stories could feel this good." He painted a tree with deep roots, symbolizing strength and the growth they were all achieving together. Lillian prompted them. "What if we add some words to our art too? Words of hope, wisdom, and resilience. Something that shows we're not just surviving but thriving." She quickly grabbed a brush and wrote the word "strong" in bold letters at the top of her canvas. Mia leaned in, inspired by Lillian's idea. "How about we each write a word or a phrase that reminds us of our journey?" She set her brush down and thought for a moment. "I want to write, from broken to beautiful, because that's what we're doing." AJ picked up his brush and smiled. "I'll write, every wound is a step forward." It's so true. Sean, not wanting to be left out, chose his words carefully. I want together we rise, since we're all in this together. As they painted and shared their words, a sense of magic filled the space. They were not just creating art, they were building a community of strength. Each stroke of the brush and each spoken word was a step towards healing. They were turning their traumas into triumphs. Lillian looked around at her friends, admiration filling her heart. You know, our stories are like threads in a tapestry. Every story matters and adds to the bigger picture. She put her hands together as if weaving the threads they had created. Mia added, "And this tapestry isn't just for us. It's for anyone who might feel lost or broken. We can give them hope through our art." With newfound purpose, they decided to display their creations in the community center, inviting others to join the creative quest. As they painted, laughter bubbled up. They shared silly jokes, memories of their past, and dreams for the future. Each chuckle was a reminder that even when life felt heavy, they could choose joy. In the center of the room, a big blank canvas stood alone, waiting for its turn. Lillian stood up and looked at it, her heart racing with excitement. Let's create something together. Our collective strength can fill this canvas with everything we've learned. Their laughter echoed as they dipped their brushes in paint and began to create. What started as a simple gathering turned into a vibrant celebration of healing, friendship, and resilience. In those moments, they knew that while trauma could leave scars, it could also lead to wisdom and a flourishing of hope. And just like that, they transformed not only the canvas in front of them, but also the journey they were on together. Each brushstroke became a symbol of their resilience, a mark of how far they had come, and how bright their futures could be. Lillian looked around the studio, her heart swelling with warmth as she admired the colorful paintings that surrounded her. Each canvas told a story, not just of pain, but of healing and hope too. The air buzzed with laughter, brush strokes, and the sweet smell of paint. They had turned this space into something special, a sanctuary. "Hey Lillian, can you pass me that blue?" Mia called out, her hands smudged with different colors. She was working on a big canvas that had bright stars shining against a deep night sky. "I want to bring out the light." "Sure thing," Lillian replied, handing over the paint. She loved how Mia could always find a spark, even in the darkest colors. It reminded her that hope was about finding the light, no matter how hidden it seemed. As they painted, AJ chimed in with a grin. "I think I might add a few clouds to my mountain scene." Clouds always bring a little drama, don't they? He gestured to his work, where a rugged mountain stood tall under a cheerful sun. "Drama and hope can go hand in hand," Sean added thoughtfully, his voice low but full of conviction, "just like we can feel sad and still choose to smile." "Exactly," Lillian nodded, her fingers dancing across her canvas. She was adding touches of vibrant flowers to her piece. "Every brush stroke is a choice. We can choose to see the beauty in our journey, even when it feels heavy." They shared stories, laughter, and the occasional tear. They talked about how each of them had faced their challenges and how art helped lift the weight off their shoulders. During this heart-to-heart, Lillian realized that their artwork was more than just color. It was a bond, an unbreakable thread of shared experiences and strength. "We should show this to everyone," Mia suggested, her eyes sparkling. "Let's hold an art show in the park. People need to see that it's okay to feel tough emotions, but there's always hope, too." "I love that idea," AJ exclaimed. "Let's invite everyone and share our stories. We can even make it a fun day with music and food." "What if we call it Hope in Action?" Sean proposed. "That way, it's all about making choices that keep our hope alive." Lillian's heart skipped a beat at the thought. They could turn this gathering into a celebration, not just for them, but for anyone who needed a little light. "Let's do it," she said, her voice steady with determination. "We can inspire others to find their own hope through our journeys." As the idea took shape, the studio filled with a new energy, crackling like electricity. They all dove back into their painting, knowing this was not just about art anymore. It was about a movement, a message that bright futures were possible, even from the shadows of the past. With each stroke of paint, they wrote a fresh chapter not just for themselves, but for their community, a reminder that even in the face of trauma, hope could bloom like the most beautiful flower in the darkest corner. And together, they were ready to make that beauty shine. Lillian looked around the vibrant art studio. Colorful paintings lined the walls, each telling a story of struggle and triumph. Her heart swelled as she saw Mia carefully hanging a painting that captured the essence of hope. It was a bright sun peeking out from behind dark clouds, a reminder that light can always break through the shadows. "Today's the day, right?" AJ asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. He was busy putting the final touches on his mixed media piece, tape and glue stuck to his fingers. "Our Hope in Action show is going to rock. Yes, I can't believe we finally made it happen." Lillian smiled, her mind racing with thoughts about how far they've come. "This is so much more than just our art. It's about building a community, reminding ourselves and others that they are not alone." As they prepared for the show, Sean joined them, carrying a stack of colorful flyers. "Fan them out like a deck of cards. Look at these. I'm so proud of what we've created," he said, his eyes sparkling. "It's like we're inviting others into our circle of support. They'll see our stories through the art and hopefully find their own strength." Mia nodded, her eyes shining with wisdom beyond her years. "You know, when we share our pain, we are not just healing ourselves. We're also giving others a chance to heal. They can see our struggles, feel it with us, and know they're not alone." Lillian took a moment to soak it all in. It was true. Each brushstroke, every splatter of paint, was filled with the hopes and dreams of not just them but everyone who had walked a tough road. Together, they were weaving a tapestry of resilience. On the day of the show, the energy in the studio buzzed like electric lights. Friends and family gathered, laughter filling the air as they admired the artwork. Each piece sparked conversations, hearts opening like petals in the spring sunshine. As guests mingled, Lillian noticed a shy girl standing in the corner, looking lost. She was clutching a small notebook, her eyes darting nervously. Lillian took a deep breath, remembering her own moments of feeling small and uncertain. "Hey there," Lillian said, walking over with a warm smile. "My name is Lillian. Did you find anything that speaks to you?" The girl looked up, her face lighting up just a bit. "I'm not sure. I've been through a lot," she whispered, looking down at her feet. "That's okay. We've all been through things that hurt us," Lillian said gently. "But this show is about healing together. You can share your story if you want, or just take in the art. Either way, you're not alone." The girl's expression softened. "I guess I just thought I was the only one." "Trust me, you're not. We all have our battles. That's why we're here, building this circle of support. It's a space where we can express our feelings and find hope." Lillian gestured toward her friends, who were chatting and enjoying the moment. "You're welcome here, just as you are." As the show continued, connections blossomed in every corner. Strangers became friends, stories transformed into shared laughter and empathy. When it was time for Lillian and her friends to take the stage, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice steady. "We created this show not just for us, but for every person who feels lost or broken. There's beauty in our pain, and together we can forge a path toward healing. We want everyone to know it's okay to feel sad and it's okay to seek hope." The applause that followed filled the room with warmth, filling Lillian with a sense of purpose so deep that it almost brought her to tears. That day, art was not just colors on a canvas. It was a lifeline. It was a circle of support that wrapped around everyone and whispered of resilience. As the sun began to set outside, casting a warm golden light through the studio windows, Lillian knew this was just the beginning. With hope in their hearts and the courage to share, they would continue to grow together, proving that even after trauma, light could shine beautifully again.